Welcome to Movies with MacLean. I'm Andrew MacLean, and this is the weekly podcast where we talk all things movies, including the latest in movie news. With me today is Michael Frank. Michael, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Andrew.
I'm glad to have you here, Michael. It's been a while since you've been on, but have you seen any big summer movies that you've really enjoyed, or any movies you've seen recently that you really enjoyed?
As I have, this summer I saw Wonder Woman. I actually saw Wonder Woman twice. Enjoyed it both times. And yeah, that's really the only big movie I saw this summer.
Yeah, I enjoyed Wonder Woman. Saw that with you. Didn't know that you saw it again, but I know you really enjoyed that. I personally saw Baby Driver this past week, and I was really impressed. I definitely recommend our viewers see Baby Driver if you have not. So check out both of those movies. Probably the two best movies of the summer so far. But we are getting into some better ones in July, hopefully. So, as we always do, we're going to start the show with the movie news. And in the news, we had a new trailer actually, the first trailer released for Jumanji. So, I believe the title is Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. What do you think of the trailer for Jumanji, and are you excited to see Jumanji?
Honestly, I really like the original Jumanji movie, and this one does not really excite me. It doesn't look. It looks like it showed all the action and fun stuff in the trailer, and I'm not really excited for it though.
Yeah, I have to agree. I didn't really like the trailer that much. I mean, obviously, Dwayne The Rock Johnson and Kevin Hart have good chemistry, but I don't really like the whole big thing where, like, it's these adults playing high schoolers, like with Tom Hanks and Big. And just some of the humor didn't really hit in the trailer for me, and also the action I feel like is not going to be anything particularly exciting or anything new, so I have to say I'm not looking forward to Jumanji. Also in the news, we actually have some Fantastic Beasts news. So Fantastic Beasts 2, that's probably not the official title, but the sequel to Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them has started filming, and a synopsis was released, and this is basically the gist of the synopsis, is that Gellert Grindelwald, which was Johnny Depp's character, has escaped prison, and he's gathered more followers to his anti-Muggle cause, and Dumbledore has to stop him with the help of Newt Scamander, played by Eddie Redmayne again. So we didn't see Dumbledore at all in the first movie, but he's going to be in this one, young Dumbledore. So what do you think of that synopsis? Is this what you want to see from a sequel?
Yeah, I really liked the first Fantastic Beasts. I liked the main character, and I liked Grindelwald in it, and I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I kind of knew that they were going to go in this direction with Dumbledore, so this is officially them saying that, and I am looking forward to it because I did like all the new characters that we saw, but I don't know that I want to see a young Dumbledore because I'm just worried that it's going to sort of be too different from the character we know from the Harry Potter movies. Jude Law is playing Dumbledore, and he is a good actor, but I just don't know the direction they're going to take. I think that there's enough stories you can tell in the wizarding world without the characters that we already know, and that's what I really enjoyed about Fantastic Beasts, was that it was this completely standalone story. So they're taking a risk by going with these characters that we know that they might do something too different from what we already know, but I definitely will see it, and I am looking forward to it. So that's actually going to bring us into our main topic today, which is Harry Potter movies. Michael and I are both big Potterheads, and a couple weeks ago, or last week sometime, was actually the 20th anniversary of the release of the first book in the UK, which was at the time called the Philosopher's Stone, and then when it came to America, they changed it to the Sorcerer's Stone. So I want to start this discussion of Harry Potter movies off by asking you, Michael, how did you come to the Harry Potter films or books? Which one came first for you, and what has your experience been as a Harry Potter fan?
Honestly, I've been with Harry Potter for so long that I can't even remember how I came to it. But I would have to say, like, my earliest memory of Harry Potter would probably be of the books, because when I was about 4 or 5. Like I can remember back to that, and I was that age I couldn't even read, but I remember this one period over like 2 or 3 weeks where my dad would always read the first chapter. I would always make my dad read the first chapter of Harry Potter to me for some weird reason. I bet like by now we could probably recite it from heart.
Yeah.
After reading it so many times.
Yeah, I also enjoy the books, I think, a little more than the movies. I've definitely seen the movies more, but it started with me for the movies because I was probably, I think I was like 2 or 3 when the first one came out, and so I watched the first few movies, and then when I was around 6, I read all the books and finished those before the rest of the movies had come out, and I read the books twice, and I've seen each of the movies probably 25 times, but it's funny, actually, when I was really young, I was scared of Voldemort at the end of Sorcerer's Stone, that scene where he's like, his sort of rushes through Harry, you know?
Yeah.
That scene actually, like, really scared me, but I read the books and I was fine there. So let's talk about the Sorcerer's Stone, that first movie that introduced worldwide audiences to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. What are some of your favorite moments in the Sorcerer's Stone, and what do you think it really did well, like from the books to the movies?
I think my favorite thing about Sorcerer's Stone is it's the introduction of everyone into the Wizarding World. I think it does a really good job of doing that, showing you Diagon Alley and all the shops there, the Ollivander with his wands, Gringotts Vault. And I think it also does a good job with Hogwarts, especially like the entrance, both the train and the boat ride to Hogwarts. I think those are both really interesting ways to show you the world of magic. And I think that's what Sorcerer's Stone does really well. I also like the story in it, even though it's like kind of takes a little side to the introduction to the world of magic. I think they try to focus more on bringing the reader into that world rather than just telling the story, because I don't think they really get into that until halfway. But overall, I think I really liked Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah, and I think what you say about like Diagon Alley and Hogwarts, how they look, that's a really good credit to like the set designers, because they did a great job of bringing us into that world, and I think they perfectly captured what J.K. Rowling wrote. And also, I think they just got so many of those characters perfect, like Hagrid and Snape and even like Filch. All these characters are just perfect encapsulations of what J.K. Rowling wrote, and I think that's partially because of her involvement in the films. I think that she was involved just enough to make sure they got everything right, but she wasn't, controlling the production or anything. And some people complain that like the first few movies are a little too kiddie, but I think that a lot of the humor in there is not like the kind of dumb kid humor that we see in like the Transformers movies, but it's actually good humor that works for kids, and then is like able to be respected by us at this age. We might not enjoy it as much as we did, but it's still good humor. And then I think one of my favorite scenes is when Harry gets on the broom and he's trying to catch Neville's Remembrall that Malfoy takes from him. I think that's like a great scene to set up Malfoy as a character. We had met him before briefly, but that really sets up the rivalry between those two. And also, I just think that it's incredible that they got such a great child cast with not only Harry, Ron, and Hermione, but Malfoy and all the others, Neville. This was the start of this saga, and they got the cast perfect, and they all stayed that way throughout 8 films, so that's just incredible that they were able to pull that off. And I think that for the most part, there's not a lot of bad child acting scenes. I can't think of any in that Sorcerer's Stone, at least. So did you have anything else on Sorcerer's Stone, or did you want to move on to Chamber of Secrets?
I just wanted to bring up like a scene that I really remember pretty well is the troll in the dungeon scene.
Yeah.
I think that that was set up by Quirrell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that really leads you into what kind of what kind of things he might do later in the book. So I really like that scene.
Yeah, and then also, by the way, we are going to talk spoilers. These movies have been out for plenty of time. You should know by now. But just the reveal of, like, when he pulls the turban off and Voldemort's on the back of his head, that's so unique. Like, where else have you seen anything like that? I can't think of anything. So yeah, Sorcerer's Stone was a great introduction into the wizarding world, and that takes us into the second film, which is the Chamber of Secrets. So a lot of people say the Chamber of Secrets is their least favorite. I personally really enjoy it, almost on the same level as Sorcerer's Stone. But what are your thoughts on Chamber of Secrets? Do you agree with that sentiment that it's one of the worst, or?
I really like Chamber of Secrets as a book, but not so much as a movie. I think as a book, it does a really good job of encapsulating like a sort of mystery as to what's happening in Hogwarts with all the people getting petrified. Like, you have no idea what is doing it, but in the books it sort of makes it obvious that it's a giant snake coming around. In the movie it sort of makes it obvious that it's a snake going around petrifying people, and that's like one of the things I don't like about the movie. But I do like Sorcerer's Stone. Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
Yeah, and I think that it was the last one where they tried to include almost everything from the book in the movie, and that's why it's the longest movie. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes. But there's a lot of really good stuff in there with Kenneth Branagh as Gilderoy Lockhart. Again, just a perfect depiction of that character from the book, and there's a lot of fun scenes in there with like the car chasing the train. That's a really good scene. And then also there's actually an important scene when like Ron and Fred and George come to take Harry away from the Dursleys' house. That's something that is actually like a good coming of age element of this movie, where he was in a bad home environment, and his friends recognized that, and they did what needed to be done to get him out of that home environment. And that's something that I think that Harry Potter does really well in the coming of age region, because it is obviously a fantasy film, but has a lot of elements of coming of age in high school movies, and that was a good scene that sort of plays with the real world, with people who might not feel like they have a home. And Hogwarts was really Harry's home, so I think that was an important scene. But that's enough on Chamber of Secrets, so let's move on to The Prisoner of Azkaban. I believe this is your favorite, Michael, am I correct?
It is.
Alright, I'll let you start us off then. What are some of your favorite parts of Prisoner of Azkaban?
I think Prisoner of Azkaban is one of the most solid films in the it is the most solid films in the Harry Potter franchise. I think it has a very good overarching story, especially with the reveal that Sirius Black was actually a friend of Harry the entire time, and his parents, and he was betrayed by
Peter Pettigrew.
Yeah. And I think the movie does a really good job of developing that like sense of mystery, or not mystery, of like fear of him, around like the first 2/3 of the movie, and then to hit you with the big reveal at the end.
Yeah, and then also you have Lupin for the first time in this movie, and David Thewlis is so great in every movie that he appears as Lupin.
And Cho.
Sorry?
Yeah, and Cho.
Cho?
And Cho, like every show that he appears in.
Oh, yeah. I thought, okay.
Sorry.
I think you said Cho Chang.
No.
Yeah, but Prisoner of Azkaban is, I think, a lot of people's favorite. I will say that the one, like, sort of bad acting scene from the child perspective that I get is when Harry says, like, I'm gonna kill him about Sirius. That's not the best, but that's the only time, really, in any of it, so that's really good that that doesn't happen often. And then I think, yeah, there also is just that sense of like danger throughout the whole film, whereas Hogwarts has been this safe place, but it's not that way anymore. And then we also get our first trip to Hogsmeade,
Yep.
and I think that they, again, with the sets that we talked about, they perfectly depicted Hogsmeade. And there's a great scene at the beginning with Aunt Marge where she's blowing up. So a lot of great humor there. And then the Dementors, I think they got the look of the Dementors really, really well. So I have nothing but good things to say about Prisoner of Azkaban. A lot of people said it as their favorite, but I think, well, did you have anything else on Prisoner of Azkaban?
No.
Okay, I think one of my favorites personally is the Goblet of Fire. And this is the first one that went PG-13, and I think they sort of show you at the very beginning that these aren't exactly kid-friendly movies anymore, because that scene is, you know, pretty frightening for a little kid at the beginning, and pretty serious when it goes into the graveyard, and I think Frank Bryce is the character's name, walks in on Voldemort and Barty Crouch Jr., and they kill him, and I think that it's a very dark scene, and it really changes the tone for the franchise. And while the first three films are great, and I love them, they're a huge part of my childhood, I think it was necessary to get into the conflict between good and evil that we needed to go into a little bit more of a dark tone. So that's just my thoughts on the opening of the film, but what are your thoughts on Goblet of Fire as a whole, the film?
Goblet of Fire, I think is a pretty good film. It's not one of my favorite in the Harry Potter. It doesn't have. I really enjoyed the most of the kid friendly elements of the first few.
Mm-hmm.
Even though like the action, or not the action, the kind of turn in like the fourth one, like that you mentioned, I like that too. But I think, and that's what I think Goblet of Fire really embodies pretty well, with especially near the end where they actually have one of the deaths of a like an important character,
Yeah.
Cedric. Sorry.
It's fine.
Yeah.
You should have seen it by now if you're listening.
Yeah, with Cedric's death at the end and the reveal of Mad-Eye Moody being a bad guy similar to Quirrell in the first one.
Mm-hmm. And I think that the payoff of finally meeting Voldemort is so good. He is just the embodiment of evil, and really one of the great movie villains. I think, you know, we talk about some of the best movie villains. Voldemort's up there, and it started with Goblet of Fire. Ralph Fiennes is so great and so menacing. And then also just all the challenges that Harry goes through, the Dragon Challenge and the Underwater Challenge, those are just so much fun to watch. And then you also get a lot of the drama where sort of Harry and Ron are at conflict with each other for the first time we see really in this one. And that'll go on throughout some of the other films where Harry and Ron are sort of, you know, friends, and then something tears them apart. And that just goes into the coming-of-age elements of these movies that I think they really do that well. And then also the introduction to Durmstrang and Beauxbatons. I think that those schools are both depicted really well with the costumes, especially. Did you have a whole lot else on Goblet of Fire, or do you want to move on?
I'll move on.
Alright, then let's get to Order of the Phoenix. So what is your experience with Order of the Phoenix? What are some of your favorite moments in that film?
My favorite moment, my favorite moment in Order of the Phoenix, well, it is a sad one, is probably the death of Sirius Black. Since I was like a fan of Prisoner of Azkaban, Sirius Black kind of held a special place in my heart, and they really did his death scene well, including like how random and out of the blue it was to Harry's reaction and the chaos that went on after it. I think that was a really big part of, really big and strong part of Order of the Phoenix. I also liked the introduction to the Order of Phoenix when the house is split up and uh, they just went into the middle, and there's like all of Harry's friends and family over the past few years, like Lupin, Mad Eye, Mad Eye?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mad Eye, Sirius Black, just all of them, and I just thought that was a really nice touch.
Hmm. And you talk about that death scene. What really stands out there too is Lupin when he like grabs Harry and sort of pulls him away. Says like, I don't know exactly what he says, but basically he's doing it because he needs to get Harry to safety, and he can't just take revenge there because he's putting himself at risk, and that's really powerful for Lupin to hold himself together there because Sirius was his best friend who just died in front of him, but he has to stay strong for Harry in that scene, and I think that is the best part of the movie. It also does have the really great payoff of seeing Voldemort and Dumbledore go at it, which is the only time we see that in the whole franchise, but some of the spells they use there just really show what the most powerful wizards are capable of. So that was really good to witness, and Umbridge is also just the worst. I mean, you root for her to die more than you root for Voldemort to die, so that's a credit to that performance. But mostly I'd say it's probably my least favorite because I think it takes a while to get going. The end is fantastic. What are your thoughts on Luna Lovegood? This is the first time we see her in film.
Luna Lovegood, I think she's a good portrayal of the character that they put in the book. A really like quirky and weird character that you like and kind of root for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it has a bit of mystery to it that they do show in the movies.
Yeah. And I do like a lot of Harry like teaching the other students how to defend themselves. It's where he sort of becomes a leader for the first time, and I think that's one of the better aspects of Order of the Phoenix. Let's move into the next film, which is The Half-Blood Prince. And this, along with Goblet of Fire, I think those are my two favorites. So I think that what Half-Blood Prince does so well is this is like the first movie where the whole Wizarding world has accepted that Voldemort is back. And so we see sort of how everyone treats Harry differently, knowing that. And I think that we get the best of the high school drama in this movie. We see that, like, with Ron on the Quidditch team now, how some of that goes to his head. And I just think that there's a lot of good scenes that sort of go away from the main conflict, but really give us great character moments between Harry, Ron, Ginny, Hermione. All of them have great scenes between each other in Half-Blood Prince, and I think that's what this movie does particularly well. What are your thoughts on Half-Blood Prince?
I think I agree with you on how it has great character moments. Like, it shows the conflicts between characters, but I didn't really throw Half-Blood Prince. I didn't really get a overarching plot other than like Voldemort was there and he's a bad guy and they need to stop him. I didn't really see any. I didn't really, other than like the scene where they go to that Harry and Dumbledore go to that one place, they get the ring and then come back, and then Dumbledore dies from Snape. I don't really see any like plot moving through the entire.
Well, you have Harry with Professor Slughorn, where he's trying to get information from him throughout the whole thing, and there isn't a lot of action. This is probably the least action-heavy film, but that's a lot of the story that I see in there, is where Harry's sort of trying to get information out of him, but not be too obvious if that's what he wants, and not reveal that Dumbledore brought him there for the purpose of getting information about Tom Riddle. And then you also have Malfoy's conflict with his turn fully to becoming a Death Eater. I think that this is probably Tom Felton's best performance as Malfoy, is in that one. And then you also Harry using the spell, the Sectum Semper spell on Malfoy. That's a great scene where he realizes that he's gone too far. And then I think my favorite scene is actually a funny one where Harry takes the Felix Felicis, the Liquid Luck, and he's like, I think I'll go to Hagrid's. It just seems like the place to be. I love that scene. I think it's really funny. So yeah, Half-Blood Prince is definitely one of my favorites. But we'll move into another one that gets a lot of scrutiny, and that is the Deathly Hallows Part 1. So what are your thoughts on Deathly Hallows Part 1?
Well, I think most of the scrutiny that it gets from it is because it's mostly the first Harry Potter movie that does not take place in Hogwarts. It follows Harry, Hermione, and Ron through England, and them just trying to find and destroy the remaining Horcruxes, and it does have a plot, but its climax is kind of put in by the directors of the movie, since it was a book that's split in half, rather than just a single book with its own climax that J.K. Rowling wrote from that J.K. Rowling intended to have.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people say that well, it's just setting up the next one, but I don't really agree with that, because there's a lot of really intense action sequences, and that scene where they go to the Ministry of Magic, that's a very fun sequence where they portray the adults, and because they take the Polyjuice Potion, and then Ron has that scene where he's kissing that guy's wife because she thinks that he's the guy who they use the Polyjuice Potion with, and they're going after the Horcruxes the whole time, and I think that while it doesn't really have a resolution for a 7th movie in a franchise, that's okay that it's sort of setting up the next one. And there's also that great scene with Harry and Hermione in when they're dancing after Ron has left. I think that relationship is the most solid among the big three, whereas Ron has issues with Harry and Hermione has issues with Ron throughout the whole thing. I think Harry and Hermione really keep each other together through a lot of this conflict, and we see how they react when Ron does go away from the group for a while. So I overall really enjoy Deathly Hallows Part 1. It's one of the most action-packed films in the series, and it is a good change of pace where it's not set in Hogwarts, because we get to see them in the Muggle world for a little while in London, so I think that there's a lot to love about that movie. So let's move into the final film, Deathly Hallows Part 2. What are your thoughts on the last film in the Harry Potter franchise?
I think Deathly Hallows Part 2 is the perfect conclusion to an 8-movie franchise or the best conclusion to an 8-movie franchise that you could possibly have. It has the enormous battle scene, I think it's lasted over an hour long, and it has all characters' plot arcs completed. Especially my favorite thing about Deathly Hallows Part 2 is Harry's death, and then his reborn, him being brought back to life. Him sacrificing himself really showed that he's kind of a martyr, because doing that is the only way to destroy Voldemort, and I think they depicted the scene after he dies really well, where he's in King's Cross Station with Dumbledore.
And in the books, they're naked in that scene.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that they should have done in the movie that they didn't do.
I don't want to see them naked.
I'm joking.
I don't want to see Dumbledore naked. Yeah. Anyway, with the scene in King's Cross Station showing the Voldemort thing, whatever you want to call it, showing that, and how that was a part of Harry that died when Voldemort killed him, not Harry. And then it was just so amazing how they how they showed him being revealed that he's not dead, and everyone being happy, or not happy, but everyone's spirits coming back up when they realize that he's not dead.
Yeah, and I think that the last film also sort of shows the badassery of a lot of these characters that we hadn't gotten to see.
Yeah, especially Neville.
Neville, yes, and then also some of the female characters like Molly and Professor McGonagall. We really get to see them, their full potential in the battle. And then there's a lot of really heart-wrenching deaths with Fred and Lupin and Tonks, and those are really set up throughout the entire franchise. 8 movies, these characters that we've grown to love. To see their deaths, it's really a good payoff, and you really feel for those characters, so that's impressive in movies that are based on children's books. That's really impressive. And, you know, I just think that they got everything right because this is the conclusion to an Epic 8 part, well, 7, however you want to count it, saga. And, like, the final conflict between Harry and Voldemort, they got that down perfect. And I think that, like, the conclusion of, like, the Malfoy family, how they sort of go off is done really well. So, yeah, overall, I think the Harry Potter saga is one of the few long-running franchises where every single film is a good entry. That's my opinion. What do you think of the theory that Uncle Vernon is the true hero of the saga, not Harry?
Oh, yeah, of course. He's obviously the true hero.
Yeah.
Uncle Vernon.
And one thing I forgot to say, too, is that the John Williams score in the first 3 movies is incredible. It didn't get to the same height as it did in, like, after he left, after Prisoner of Azkaban, but there's so many memorable themes that really enhance those first 3 movies. So I just wanted to bring that up. And now let's take the discussion to the future, where we have the potential to see more Harry Potter, because there's that play that was released, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, and it's like, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but it takes place like in the 19 years later section. Like we see them at the end and they're all supposed to look older, but they really don't look much older. Where it's about like Harry and something with his kids, I believe. So would you want to see down the line after like these Fantastic Beasts movies are done, would you want to see a follow-up where they are adults and we see the Cursed Child in a movie? Because I think Warner Brothers would certainly like to make that movie because they make so much money off of these Harry Potter films. Is that something you want to see? Is that something we should see?
I don't think it should be in films. Honestly, I didn't really want anything. I didn't even really want any additional books after Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I think that just sort of completes the story of Harry and Hermione. We don't need to know about their children other than the 19 years later a short segment at the end of Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think Harry Potter and the Potter world, not the Wizarding world.
Just about those characters.
Yeah. I think that with just those characters is perfect, and it doesn't need to be. Nothing needs to be added on to it.
I agree completely. That they have a complete beginning, middle, and end to that story, and it's sort of the same thing as Return of the Jedi, where that's a perfect ending to the Star Wars trilogy. And yeah, they decided to do more movies with those characters, and I'm not saying I'm not happy about that, because I definitely love The Force Awakens, and I'm excited to see where the rest of the saga goes. But that is a perfect trilogy, and I believe that the Harry Potter franchise is a perfect, complete story, and they take a risk of ruining that if they tell another story with those characters that feels out of place. So those are my thoughts. I guess we agree on that. And now let's close out with something fun. So there's a lot of spells in the Harry Potter world. We have Ridiculous turns Boggart into something funny, and we have Expecto Patronum conjures a Patronus. So I'm going to read off a few of these names of spells, and I want you to try to tell me what you think these spells do.
Alright.
So let's start off with a fairly easy one, Reducto.
Reducto. Doesn't it reflect spells or something? Or does it shrink things.
It breaks an object into a bunch of pieces.
Wow.
So that I thought you'd get that because of the Lego Harry Potter game, because that's one where you like break metal.
Yeah.
All right, now we have Defindo.
Defindo. I'm gonna say that reflects spells. That does not, does it?
Yeah, it actually cuts something in half.
I'm really bad at this.
That's all right. These are pretty hard. I mean, some of these are ridiculous. Including ridiculous is also a ridiculous name for a spell. So we have, this one's a fun one, Homunculus.
Homunculus.
If you don't know, just make something up.
Yeah, I'm guessing it just turns people into monkeys.
Good guess. It causes a person to break out in boils.
Oh, that's not a good guess.
I mean, by the name, that's a good guess.
But it's nowhere near like the actual spell.
Yeah, I guess. Alright, and then this next one, this one is very stupid, I'll be honest. Repellomuggleton.
It pushes muggles away.
That is correct. I could use this spell. Muggles, let's be honest, they can be pretty annoying. I would love to be able to use Repellomuggleton. And the last one is Serpensortia.
Serpensortia. It bends things, or no, makes a snake.
Yes, that is correct. It conjures a snake. Alright, so that was fun. And thank you, that is all we have for today, so thank you to everyone for listening, all you muggles out there. I enjoyed having this conversation.
Wait, what if wizards are listening?
Well, if they're listening, if Arthur Weasley is listening, then we're glad to have you as well. So thanks a lot, Michael, for coming out. I had a fun Potter conversation. And next week is actually the 50th episode of Movies with MacLean. So huge thanks to everyone who's been here since the beginning. We've been going for over a year now, and we will have a Spider-Man Homecoming review for our 50th episode. So thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week.